Her words hung in the air between them, heavy with embarrassment. Sarah's cheeks flushed crimson as she stared down at her menu, wishing she could disappear. Across the table, Michael's expression shifted from surprise to something unexpected, understanding. What happened next would change both their lives forever, proving that sometimes our most vulnerable moments lead to our greatest blessings. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us all of the unexpected ways love finds us when we least expect it. The restaurant buzzed with Valentine's Day energy, couples leaning close, candlelight dancing across faces, laughter mingling with soft music. Sarah hadn't wanted to come. A blind date on Valentine's Day felt like a special kind of torture, but her well-meaning sister had insisted. "You've been alone since the divorce." "It's been 2 years, Sarah. Just meet him." Michael hadn't wanted to come either. Valentine's Day was just another reminder of how his life had veered off course. 3 years as a single father to 8-year-old Emma had taught him to be practical about everything, including his expectations. His brother had badgered him for weeks. "She's perfect for you. Just give it a chance." When Sarah arrived at the upscale restaurant, her stomach had immediately knotted. The prices on the menu confirmed her fears. This place was well beyond her budget as a kindergarten teacher still paying off student loans. She'd spent the first 15 minutes calculating how much she could afford to spend without falling short on rent, growing more anxious with each passing moment. "I'm sorry," she finally blurted out, unable to maintain the pretense any longer. "I can't afford a Valentine's dinner. Not here." "I should have said something sooner, but I was embarrassed." Her voice trembled slightly as she prepared to gather her things and flee. Michael's response changed everything. "Thank God," he said, exhaling dramatically. "I've been sitting here wondering how I'm going to pay for this and still cover Emma's dance recital costume this month." His relief was so genuine, so unguarded, that Sarah found herself laughing. "Emma?" she asked. "My daughter. 8 going on 30. His eyes softened when he mentioned her. "She's with my parents tonight." Sarah felt something inside her relax. "So, what do we do now?" Michael glanced around at the romantic setting, then leaned forward conspiratorially. "I know a food truck that makes the best tacos in the city. They park by the river. We could grab some and just talk. Without worrying about which fork to use or whether we can afford dessert." 20 minutes later, they sat on a bench overlooking the water, paper-wrapped tacos in hand. The February air was crisp but not unbearable, and Michael had gallantly offered her his scarf when he noticed her shivering. "So, kindergarten teacher?" he asked between bites. Sarah nodded. 5 years now. "I love it, even if the pay is." She gestured to their humble dinner and they both laughed. "What about you?" "Architect. Freelance now, so I can set my own hours around Emma's schedule. Her mom isn't in the picture anymore." Sarah appreciated that he didn't immediately launch into the details. Her own divorce was still a tender spot, and she understood the value of privacy. "That can't be easy." "It's not," he admitted. "But we manage. Emma's worth every sacrifice." As the evening progressed, their conversation flowed naturally from work to childhood memories, favorite books to embarrassing stories. Sarah found herself laughing more than she had in years. There was something refreshingly honest about Michael, no pretense, no games. When he talked about Emma, his entire face transformed. "She's obsessed with space right now. Wants to be an astronaut. Her room is covered in stars and planets. Last week, I had to build a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes for her science project." "That sounds amazing," Sarah said, genuinely impressed. "Most parents would just buy something." Michael shrugged. "Money's been tight since I went freelance. We make do with creativity instead." The honesty between them continued to deepen as the night went on. Sarah found herself sharing things she rarely discussed, her fears about never having children after her marriage ended, her struggle to make ends meet while doing work she loved, her embarrassment about her financial situation. "I shouldn't have agreed to meet at that restaurant," she admitted. "But I didn't want to seem difficult before we even met." Michael nodded. "I did the same thing. Wanted to impress you, I guess. Pretty stupid, considering I spent the whole day stressing about the bill. Why do we do that to ourselves?" Sarah wondered aloud. "Pretend we're something we're not." "Fear," Michael said simply. "Fear of not being enough." Their eyes met, and Sarah felt something shift between them, a recognition, a connection that went beyond the surface-level attraction she'd felt earlier. This man understood struggle. He understood sacrifice. He understood her. As they walked back to their cars, Michael hesitated. "I had a really good time tonight. Better than I expected." "Me too," Sarah admitted. "Much better. Would you like to meet Emma? Maybe this weekend? There's a free planetarium event at the Science Center. Nothing fancy, just—" "I'd love to," Sarah interrupted, surprising herself with her eagerness. The planetarium date changed everything. Emma was bright, curious, and immediately took to Sarah, bombarding her with facts about Jupiter and black holes. Sarah, who had always loved teaching children about the wonders of the world, found herself completely charmed by the little girl's enthusiasm. "You know a lot about space," Emma observed as they examined a model of the solar system. "I teach my kindergartners about the planets every year," Sarah explained. "It's one of my favorite units." Emma's eyes widened. "You're a teacher?" "Dad, she's a teacher," she exclaimed, as if this were the most impressive profession imaginable. Michael smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I might have mentioned that you're a teacher about 50 times. Emma's been having some trouble with reading, and I think she was hoping I could help," Sarah finished for him. "I'd be happy to, Emma, if you'd like." The little girl nodded enthusiastically, and just like that, Sarah became a regular part of their lives. Twice a week, she would come over after school for reading sessions with Emma. What started as simple phonics practice evolved into elaborate storytelling adventures, with Emma's confidence growing with each session. Michael always made dinner on these nights, simple, budget-friendly meals that they all enjoyed together. Sometimes they'd play board games afterward, or watch a movie, or just talk while Emma drew pictures of the three of them having adventures in space. It was during one of these evenings, about 2 months after their first date, that Sarah realized she was falling in love, not just with Michael, but with their little family unit. The realization terrified her. Her divorce had left deep wounds, and the thought of opening herself up to that kind of pain again made her want to run. Michael sensed her withdrawal. After Emma went to bed that night, he confronted her gently. "What's wrong? You've been quiet all evening." Sarah considered deflecting but remembered the honesty that had characterized their relationship from the start. "I'm scared," she admitted. "This, you and Emma, it feels too good. Too right. And that terrifies me." Michael took her hand. "It scares me too. After Emma's mother left, I promised myself I wouldn't bring anyone into her life who might disappear. But Sarah, you're not just anyone. You've become essential to us. What if I mess it up?" she whispered. "What if I'm not enough?" "That's the fear talking again," Michael said softly. "The same fear that almost kept us from having tacos by the river that night. And look what we would have missed." Their first kiss happened then, gentle and questioning at first, then deepening with the weight of everything they'd come to mean to each other. The months that followed weren't without challenges. Sarah's lease ended, and rising rents meant she couldn't afford to stay in her apartment. Michael's freelance work hit a slow period. Emma struggled with the idea of sharing her father's attention, occasionally acting out when Sarah was around. But they faced each obstacle together, with the same honesty that had defined their relationship from the start. When Sarah needed to move, they had a frank discussion about finances and decided she would move in with them, not just as a cost-saving measure, but because they wanted to be together. "Are you sure?" Sarah had asked, worried about rushing things. "What about Emma?" "We'll talk to her together," Michael assured her. "We'll make sure she knows this doesn't change how much I love her." Emma's reaction surprised them both. After they carefully explained the situation, she looked thoughtful for a moment, then asked, "Will you still help me with reading?" "Of course," Sarah promised. "And will you still make pancakes on Sundays?" she asked Michael. "Absolutely." Emma nodded decisively. "Then it's okay. But I want to help Sarah move her stuff. And can we paint her room? Not pink. Maybe blue, like the sky." Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes. "It's our room now, sweetie. Your dad and I will share a room." "Oh." Emma considered this. "Like married people?" Michael and Sarah exchanged glances. "Not yet," Michael said carefully. "But maybe someday, if that's something we all want." The day Sarah moved in was chaotic but joyful. Emma insisted on labeling boxes with her newly improved reading skills. Michael's parents came to help, welcoming Sarah with warm hugs and knowing smiles. By evening, when they all collapsed on the couch with pizza and exhaustion, Sarah felt a sense of belonging she'd never experienced before. That night, after Emma was asleep, Michael and Sarah sat on the porch swing, looking at the stars. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being honest that night. For admitting you couldn't afford that ridiculous restaurant. If you hadn't, we might have spent the whole evening pretending to be people we're not, and then gone our separate ways, never knowing what we could have been." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "I was so embarrassed. I thought you'd think less of me. Instead, I saw the real you. Brave enough to be vulnerable. Strong enough to be honest. That's when I started falling in love with you." 1 year after their first Valentine's Day, Michael proposed, not with an expensive ring he couldn't afford, but with a simple band he'd designed himself and had crafted by a friend who owed him a favor. He proposed not at a fancy restaurant, but at the same food truck by the river where they'd shared their first real conversation. Emma was part of the proposal, holding a handmade sign that read, "Will you be my mom?" The three of them cried together when Sarah said yes, forming a tight circle of hugs as passers-by smiled at the obvious love between them. Their wedding was small and meaningful, held in the community garden where Sarah volunteered. Emma served as both flower girl and best daughter, proudly walking down the aisle ahead of Sarah. In their vows, Michael and Sarah promised not just to love each other, but to always maintain the honesty that had brought them together. "I promise to never pretend to be someone I'm not," Sarah vowed. "To admit when I'm struggling, to share my fears as well as my dreams, and to always remember that our greatest strength is in our truth." "I promise to value what truly matters," Michael responded. "Not the things we can buy, but the life we build together. I promise to see you, really see you, every day, and to love all that I see." As they settled into married life, their financial situation gradually improved. Michael's architecture business gained momentum, and Sarah was promoted to lead teacher at her school. They still budgeted carefully, prioritizing Emma's education and experiences over material possessions, but the constant stress of making ends meet began to ease. 2 years into their marriage, they welcomed a baby boy they named Leo, after the constellation Emma had been studying when they told her she would be a big sister. Emma took her role seriously, reading to her little brother every night, her once struggling reading skills now advanced beyond her grade level. On their third Valentine's Day together, they returned to the upscale restaurant where they'd first met. This time, they could afford the meal, but they found themselves laughing at the pretentiousness they once would have tried to match. "Should we stay?" Michael asked, noticing Sarah's amused expression as she watched a couple at the next table posing their elaborate meals for social media. Sarah considered for a moment, then smiled. "Actually, I'm craving tacos. What do you think?" 20 minutes later, they were back at their spot by the river, the same food truck serving up the same perfect tacos. As they sat on their bench, now carved with their initials and Emma's, Sarah reflected on how differently their lives might have turned out if she hadn't spoken those words that first night. "I'm sorry, I can't afford a Valentine's dinner," she had said, terrified of rejection. Instead, her honesty had been the first step toward the most authentic love she'd ever known, a love built not on impressions or expectations, but on truth, understanding, and the courage to be vulnerable. As the sun set over the river, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Michael squeezed her hand. "Happy Valentine's Day, Sarah." "Happy Valentine's Day," she replied, resting her head on his shoulder and thinking that sometimes, the most beautiful love stories begin not with grand gestures or perfect circumstances, but with simple honesty and the willingness to be seen for exactly who you are. And that night, as they returned home to Emma and baby Leo, to the life they had built together from that moment of vulnerability, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she had found something far more valuable than any expensive dinner could ever provide. She had found her truth, her family, her home. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the words we're most afraid to say. Sometimes admitting what we lack opens the door to everything we need. And sometimes, a Valentine's Day confession about not being able to afford dinner leads to a feast of love that nourishes the soul for a lifetime. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that love isn't about perfection, it's about connection, honesty, and finding someone who sees your true self and loves you not despite your struggles, but because of the strength it takes to face them.